after him were nothing but wicked kings. Josiah was the grandson of the exceedingly wicked King Manasseh. The account of his death is found in 2 Chronicles 35. I'll begin at verse 20. After all this, when Josiah had repaired the temple, Necho, king of Egypt, came up to fight against Carchemish by Euphrates, and Josiah went out against him. But he, that is Pharaoh Necho, sent ambassadors to him, saying, What do I have to do with thee, thou king of Judah? I come not against thee this day, but against the house wherewith I have war. For God commanded me to make haste. Forbear thee from meddling with God, who is with me, that he destroy thee not. Nevertheless, Josiah would not turn his face from him, but disguised himself, that he might fight with him, and hearkened not unto the words of Necho from the mouth of God, and came to fight in the valley of Megiddo, or Megiddon. And the archers shot at King Josiah, and the king said to his servants, Have me away, for I am sore wounded. His servants therefore took him out of that chariot, and put him in the second chariot that he had, and they brought him to Jerusalem, and he died, and was buried in one of the sepulchres of his fathers. And all Judah and Jerusalem mourned for Josiah. And Jeremiah, the prophet Jeremiah, lamented for Josiah. And all the singing men and the singing women spoke of Josiah in their lamentations to this day, and made them an ordinance in Israel. And behold, they are written in the lamentations. Jeremiah the prophet began to prophesy in the 13th year of Josiah's reign. The lamentation spoken of here in this text, just as a note, is not referring to Jeremiah's book of Lamentations. This is indicating that Josiah was such a great king that even Jeremiah lamented his death. And none of the other kings of that time were lamented. The lamentations that are written, it says here, are the lamentations of the people as they sang their songs. Again, I just want to point out, this is not the book of Lamentations in the Scriptures. Now, we've spoken about Josiah before, but I want to refresh your memories about this good king so you'll better understand the mourning that attended his death. It was during King Josiah's reign that a book of the law of the Lord given by Moses was accidentally found in the temple. Josiah made an extended and massive cleanup of Judah during his reign. Zephaniah and Jeremiah both prophesied in Josiah's reign. I want to briefly summarize the zealous cleansing that Josiah performed during his reign. And this began after he found the book of the law. Josiah was in the process of repairing the temple. And this is when the book of the law was found, and it was read to him, and when he heard it, he rent his clothes. Now, he rent his clothes because he found out the curses that were coming. He found out we haven't been obeying the law, and the curses that attend it were coming. So he rent his clothes, and he sent people to inquire of a prophet about this. But after this was read, he inquired of the Lord. He took vessels that were for Baal, the grove, and the hosts of heaven out of the temple and burned them. He put down the idolatrous priests. He brought the grove out of the temple, burned it, stamped it to powder, and sprinkled the ashes on the graves of the people who worshipped it. He broke down the houses of the Sodomites that were next to the temple. He broke down the high places where incense was offered to strange gods. He destroyed the place where the people used to make their children pass through the fire. He took away the horses that were given to the sun, that's S-U-N, and burned the chariots. He beat down the altars that Manasseh had made in the courts of the temple and cast the dust into the brook Kidron. He destroyed the high places that Solomon built to false gods. He broke the images in pieces, cut down the groves, dug up the bones of those who worshiped these gods, and burned them. In Bethel he broke down the altars, stamped them to powder, burned the high places in the groves, and slew the priests that offered there and defiled their graves. 2 Kings 23 verse 24 says, Moreover, the workers with familiar spirits, the wizards and the images and the idols and all the abominations that were spied in the land of Judah and Jerusalem did Josiah put away, that he might perform the words of the law which were written in the book that Hilkiah the priest found in the house of the Lord. And like unto him was there no king before him, that turned to the Lord with all his heart, and with all his soul, and with all his might, according to the law of Moses. Neither after him rose there any like him. Now you can see here that Josiah is a type of Christ, a faint type. He was the grandson, as I said, of the wicked King Manasseh, who reigned notoriously over Judah for 55 years. And during that time, the nation had sunken into depths and depravity and rejection of God, and good King Josiah was raised up at the tender young age of 8 years and took the throne. And Josiah's first recorded work as king was to repair the house of the Lord. So here was a good king, one that had truly care for the people and for his land. His main concern was not for himself and how he could be benefited from his reign, but his concern was to get the people in a position where they could be blessed of God, abiding in the covenant. And he devoted himself to pleasing God. And when the book of the law was read to him, he rent his clothes, because he learned of the wrath of God that was coming, and it could not be good for the people. And it came to pass, when the king had heard the words of the book of the law, that he rent his clothes. And the king commanded Hilkiah the priest, and Ahikam the son of Shaphan, and Achbor the son of Micaiah, and Shaphan the scribe, and Asahiah a servant of the king's, saying, Go ye, inquire of the Lord for me and for the people, and for all Judah, concerning the words of this book that is found. For great is the wrath of the Lord that is kindled against us, because our fathers have not hearkened unto the words of this book, to do according unto all that which is written concerning us. Now the death of this good king, it seemed, was untimely. At the peak of his good work, his life was abruptly ended in a situation that seemed so unreasonable, just nonsensical. Why did Josiah go out to oppose Pharaoh Necho when Pharaoh was not coming against Judah? Why this seemingly foolish act? So the people thought on these things, and this is part of what caused them to mourn. This was a tragedy for the people of Judah. This is for these people, this was the only good king they had ever known. They had no good kings in many, many decades, and probably had never known a good king until Josiah reigned. Now the words of Huldah the prophetess from the Lord to Josiah were this: Because thine heart was tender, and thou didst humble thyself before God, when thou heardest his words against this place and against the inhabitants thereof, and humblest thyself before me, and didst rend thy clothes, and weep before me, I have even heard thee also, saith the Lord. Behold, I will gather thee to thy fathers, and thou shalt be gathered to thy grave in peace. Neither shall thine eyes see all the evil that I will bring upon this place, and upon the inhabitants of the same. So they brought the king word again. Now Josiah's death makes no sense until you consider Huldah the prophetess's words, that the Lord spared him from what was to come, which is the Babylonian captivity. Nevertheless, King Josiah was a great loss for Judah. Now compare this here to the mourning in our text. How much greater will the lamentation be when the people of Israel lament and mourn in bitterness for their Messiah, Jesus the Christ? How much greater will the mourning be at the thought that Christ did not suffer a tragic death in battle, but that he was murdered by their own nation. Jesus came to do the will of the Father. Like the type seen in Josiah, he came to purge the people of unrighteousness, to pull down the idols, to repair the house of God, to get the people in a place where God could bless them. And Jesus did accomplish all these things, and to a much greater extent than Josiah could have imagined. When the people of Israel consider and recognize what has happened, there will be a mourning on a grand scale, a collective mourning of the nation like the mourning over the loss of Josiah. As much as I would like to continue on here, the following verses require more time and are weighty matters, so I don't want to skim over them quickly. So I'm going to stop here for now. You know that there are those that say that Israel is not going to be converted There are those that say that this passage in Zechariah is not a prophecy of the conversion of Israel. But I ask, is there anything too hard for God? Can God bring life from the dead? Amen. Can he bring a whole nation to life at once? Can a nation be born in a day? And I confess to you, the more that men say this is impossible, the more I look forward to it. Amen. My heart is thrilled with the prospect of seeing it happen.